This podcast is sponsored by Go Play Sports, the brand new mobile app changing the game for grassroots. Whether it's Sunday League or five-a-side, Go Play Sports makes it easy to track attendance, manage teams and cut out the manual admin. No more endless group chats, no more chasing payments, just turn up and play. Go Play Sports. Download now from your app store.
Let's kick it off. I'm Steve, and I'm joined by Ash, and just Ash, because Az is busy in Bali, sunning himself up, and we had a couple of dropouts today. Unfortunately, Scott's not feeling well, and Cabs, I don't know what happened to him, but it's a bit like Jamie Carragher, isn't it? Can't get hold of any of these Scousers at the moment.
I'm missing Steve, haven't they? Haven't seen him for about 7 to 10 games.
Absolute joke. These guys, when they're top of the league, you know, they're active in the group chats, they're willing to come on podcasts.
Take the piss out of us.
Yeah, couple of defeats. Or actually, I should say, is it 7 defeats or 8? I've lost track now.
I don't know. They just keep losing, so I'm just loving life. I think it's 7 in 10.
7 in 10. I mean, it's no wonder they've never won back-to-back titles, right? I think it's the pressure. They're all quite sensitive at the moment. You know, Van Dijk can't take a bit of criticism.
Yeah, Wayne Rooney's wound him up good and proper, isn't it? So, yeah, Mr. Cool, greatest defender ever. Certainly not showing that this season.
Pretty embarrassing, really, in terms of a title defence. Yeah, I guess it's me and you, just like episode 2. So, yeah, it'll be interesting. But I think we have to start with, you had an interesting night last night?
Yeah, I did. For the second time, attended the Soho Walthamstow Theatre to see the Talk of the Devils live on tour. So that's with Andy Mitten, Laurie Whitwell, Carl Anker and Ian Irvin. So, yeah, it was a great night, actually. Packed out arena. And great stories from the lads. A lot of stuff that you wouldn't normally get on the pods. Happy to say that I was an original listener about 5 years ago. But yeah,
Is that when they started?
Yeah, it was about 5 years ago. I think it was COVID year, because I remember walking. It's when I discovered walking, actually, in the middle of the summer, because obviously we couldn't go to gyms or even play football. Yeah, and Carl Anker actually started the presenting. So
did he? Yeah.
It was him, Andy Mitten, and I think Laurie was there from the beginning. But yeah, otherwise definitely Andy and Carl. Carl presented.
I can't remember Carl. Like, thinking that Carl would be the presenter now, it feels
weird,
but
it'd be strange now, because Ian obviously does such a good job with the presenting. But yeah, Carl did the first season definitely. And then I think Ian joined second season. And yeah, I mean, obviously they've done brilliant over the years, obviously going from podcast to YouTube this year. Some great stories that they were telling us yesterday. That's stuff that you wouldn't get on the normal pod. So
yeah.
Great night, and then met the lads. Most of the lads afterwards as well. Really bunch of nice guys. So definitely a enjoyable Tuesday night for sure.
Yeah, we'll see if we can tease a few stories out of you during this pod. But I know. What goes on tour stays on tour as well.
Stays on tour.
So
have to buy a ticket, Steve, next time.
Yeah, no, I think I will get down next year. I think in terms of United podcasts, for me, they're number one, I'd say. Just one is obviously the insight. You know, they're all covering the games at the press conferences. They break the major stories. The Athletic, right? Whether it's Ten Hag getting sacked or Omar flying to Portugal to do the Amorim deal, it's always the Athletic breaking it. So I think they are number one. So yeah, we'll see what stories we can get out of you during this podcast. But I think the other bit of reaction we have is just the Kieran Maguire episode has gone down really well, right? We couldn't have expected to go down that well. Obviously, we know Kieran's brilliant, but yeah, the reaction from our community, and we're getting we've done record numbers on YouTube as well, so it's
trending. Yeah, no, really good. Great episode, obviously, with Kieran. So generous with his time, and his knowledge is unsurpassed when it comes to football finance. And as always, like you learn a lot of lessons. To be fair, I think Kieran learned a couple of lessons as well with some of his face drops during the episode. So it was good to see like him hear our opinions as well. And yeah, like you said, record numbers on YouTube and on the podcast. So massive shout out to the Let's Kick It Off community, for supporting us. And yeah, we're nearing 50 episodes as well. 1 year anniversary coming up. Same time as obviously when Ruben kicked off. So
Yeah.
all trending in the right direction, Steve, under your stewardship. So yeah, hats off.
Speaking of trending in the right direction, seems like the team are trending in the right direction, right? If you listen to the positivity out there in certain people. So we'll get into that now and talk about whether we think that is genuine or whether it's just, a bit of form that can't be sustained. So yeah, we've not done a podcast since the Nottingham Forest game, right? And, when Kieran came on, we'd won 3 in a row. We're just beating Brighton, obviously his team. And then we knew we had like 2 tough away games on paper, right? Forest away and Spurs away. And yeah, I guess just briefly starting with that Forest game, obviously 2-2. Amazing equaliser from Ahmad. Like, how did
It's a strike.
how did you feel we played in that game?
Oh, I mean,
Hard to remember, to be honest. Like 2 weeks is a long time, but yeah,
it's a blur, isn't it? A week in football is a blur. But yeah, I mean, I think Ruben summed it up well after the game last season. We would have lost that, and we would have lost it comfortably, not just like 2-1. So definite credit to the lads for both games over the last couple of weeks, because they've obviously been able to get it back. And yeah, so close, Ahmad, with the winner as well. That shot off the line, hit it sweet. But the game itself, from what I remember, like we played well in patches, and I think that's probably the signs of positivity coming through right over the last 5 games. Is that those patches of positivity are stitching a bit more together, so it looks more cohesive, I think, is probably the right term. Obviously, the big problem, and I think it's a legacy issue, whether it's to do with the team or the defence itself, is the glut of goals that we concede. But I think slowly they are getting better in terms of defensively. The numbers don't suggest that, because I think we've got definitely one of the worst defenses, like on paper anyway, in the Premier League in terms of stats. I think it's like 18 goals conceded, and like you're talking the likes of Burnley and Leeds in terms of how many conceded. But the big point is obviously we're scoring goals, and we're taking chances. So
yeah, like I was just gonna say, the team spirit, I think, as well. Like that has shone through. I'd say, like obviously the last 5 games, you had the 3 wins and the 2 draws. And thinking back to all the games, I think even the first game of the run, Sunderland, right, we beat. I think we'll be hanging on towards the end of that game. I'm pretty sure we had a 1-goal lead.
Well, this is it. Like we're coming back in games. So whether it's the Burnley game or the Sunderland game, so that's what I mean. There's positivity in and amongst the chaos, and we have to expect a bit of chaos during the season, because we were so poor last season. Obviously, the league position showed that, but if we're going to finish between that, say, 8th to 5th, there will be a bit of chaos, even within games. So we could be in total control, like the Brighton game. I think the stat that I shared with the community was Casemiro influence. As soon as he comes off, we just concede goals. Obviously, that's not just about Casemiro. It's probably a little bit of everything, whether it's to do with the players coming on the pitch, fatigue. Yeah, maybe the players just relax a little bit more when they shouldn't. And I think this is it, right? It's teething problems that Ruben's dealing with better. So yeah, I mean, in terms of the Forest game, obviously we We're scoring set pieces as well, Steve. It's like the old days, headers and stuff like that.
Yeah, but we are, and like or worldies or like
Yeah.
so it doesn't for
Goals
me.
that get you excited again, right?
Yeah, they are good goals, but like it feels a bit like vibes, a bit like Ollie, if I'm being honest. Like I don't know how sustainable it is. Like it
Yeah.
feels like moments. So yes, obviously take it. The reason I mentioned the team spirit is that is actually a big fact. If anything, that's probably the biggest factor for me out of the last 5 games. It's not really the performances, because I don't think the performance has been anything that special. Obviously, we've scored the goals when we've needed them. Even if you look at the underlying data in the last few games, it's not been that great. But we've taken our chances, which is all you can ask for. But for me, the team spirit is the big thing, because I think in every game we've got to a point where it looked a little bit ropey, and like you said, last year we're losing that game. But even touching on the Spurs game now, right? We're 2-1 down in the 95th minute.
Yeah.
Fair play. Delivers the goods, and even we have to talk about like you said previously. Mbumo is looking good. I think the goalkeeper Lamons is looking very good in terms of slotting in. So the signings are making an impact as well, right?
Undefeated, right? Since Lamons has been in goal, and touchwood so far, minimal mistakes, which is key. And that helps the defence as well, because obviously they know they've got someone who's capable of catching the ball and making good saves. So they can risk a little bit more. So I'd say Luke Shaw's played well in the last couple of weeks. And he's been, I think, particularly against Brighton, he was able to push up the field, which is what Ruben prefers. So it kind of depends on like Harry Maguire playing or not. Ruben touched upon that. He said when Maguire's not playing, he can afford to take a bit more risk with the defense and push up, and obviously De Ligt likes doing that. What are you making of midfield? Because I think within the 5-game run, that's the area I just always look at constantly and just think it's being outnumbered. Like even when we're on the ball, and it's a bit like what you said. Like there's players in and around the right areas, but it just feels a little bit messy still.
Yeah, I think like the Bruno and Casemiro in the middle, obviously on paper, and not just on paper, there's been, games and moments that it just has looked shoddy. But Bruno's chance creation this season is, I think, as good as it's ever been. In terms of the amount of chances he's creating, even the amount of areas he's getting into to score himself. So he's still affecting the games quite a lot. And then, as you mentioned there, the stat about Casemiro, the amount of goals we've conceded when he's come off the pitch. So I actually think in these last 5 games, they do look relatively solid. But obviously, they have got 3 centre-backs behind them, which in theory was always supposed to help. So maybe that is starting to come through a little bit, and they are getting that little bit of extra protection. And speaking of protection, Casemiro has been brought off every game on the 70th minute, right? So
Yeah.
he's basically playing less minutes, obviously, so that he can play a bit more intensely. But again, just it feels a little bit brittle, possibly.
Yeah, what was your thoughts on Šeško over the last couple of games? Because even towards the end of the Spurs game, if you had that extra bit of quality, there's a winner there, isn't it? With that chance where Van der Ven makes the tackle.
Yeah, don't make me talk about Harry Kane again. But obviously, he's.
Did you vouch for him? I can't remember.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we'll save it for when Uz is back, and I can hammer him about that. But
the receipts, yeah,
this is why I was so big on getting a striker in their pomp, because moments just dictate games, and if you've got someone in that penalty area that can score when they shouldn't really score, or it's a slightly difficult chance and they score, it just makes such an impact. And I'm not going to make the comparison of Šeško and Højlund yet, but there are similarities in terms of the age, more so the age profile, a lot of pressure. These guys coming into the club and expected to be number one. I never really expected Šeško to hit the ground running, just purely because of the age, getting used to the new league. So although he's not, set the world alight, I'm not really surprised, to be honest. What about you?
Yes, fairly similar. I mean, I've got to say, in terms of like initial looking at him, his touch, and just even like physically in terms of like winning headers, he does seem a little bit better than Højlund, but way too early to say. Like you said, he's definitely an upgrade. I think it's just more, yeah, we'll have to see how the season goes, because if he keeps making decisions like he made on Saturday, where he takes a touch where he doesn't like take the defender out the game, and
Yeah.
that's where a clinical
It's not
striker,
clinical. Yeah.
yeah, a clinical striker knows, like, if you take the touch across, and also you need to get it on your stronger foot as soon as possible when you've got that little time, because you got a quick defender behind you as well. So if he's doing that in 3 months' time, we've got probably an issue. But yeah, you have to give him the benefit of the doubt at the moment. But yeah, we'll have to see. I mean, there's already talk about Ivan Toney's availability in January. Like apparently, multiple Premier League clubs are linked with him. But obviously, with one game a week, it's like if you sign someone like that, then you're going to stump his development. So I doubt they will pursue something like that, especially on the wages.
Yeah.
The big topic. But yeah.
But I guess, like, we've already touched on it. If you think Shesko's not hit the ground running, but Mbumo probably has, and Lomond has, and Cunha's looks pretty good. So I guess as a whole, you have to say the window is looking pretty good at the moment, right? Like, I'd say is fair.
Yeah, it's looking decent. I think with Cunha in particular, he just needs to produce a few extra numbers, especially for the transfer fee. But look, if we're winning, like you always say, it kind of doesn't matter, because he's contributing anyway in different ways. But it would be good, like, if he could get on the score sheet a bit more. I'm not so bothered about assists, because if he's like the second pass before the assist, then no problem. It's just more, I think a bit more end product. He has some phenomenal touches in games, even like with the Spurs game, and his work rate is outstanding. So it's hard to put like numbers on that, but yeah, a few more goals from him, and then the side will improve as well. We'll go up the table, especially with the way the Premier League is this season. It's everyone's so tight in that between, like, say, 4th to 10th, right? Like, it's just packed.
Yeah.
Like a few points between everyone.
Yeah, I think someone in the community shared the graphic of the league table based on, and you see Wolves at the bottom.
You're just all on their own.
Yeah, 2 points.
Lonely wolf.
Yeah, exactly. So, like, in terms of Ruben, right? So, we've obviously spoken about him a lot on this pod. Obviously, you mentioned it there. We only started this podcast when he first came into the hot seat, and the first episode was called the Ruben Plan of the podcast. So, yeah, obviously we're a year down the line now officially. I have officially lost my bet to us as well, because we had the bet. I said he would be gone by November. It's obviously now November, so he has officially won the bet. I'm happy to pay him out on that. Yeah, we said pizza.
Rudy's, I think, yeah.
Well, yeah, we did say that, but obviously I've got my boycott at Old Trafford, right? So I'm not sure when it can be in Manchester. However, today I got the magic email from United. We've got 5 tickets in the ballot for Wolves away on Monday, the 5th of December, I want to say. So if you fancy a little Christmas outing in the Midlands on a Monday night, then
let's kick it off. Christmas party, everyone.
Yeah, we'll see if us fans. In fact, I know a good Italian. I have done Wolves away once, and it could be a little Christmas night out for us if you fancy it.
Yeah, sounds good. Especially if you're paying, Steve. Always good.
Yeah, well, I always pay my bets out. Yeah. Oh, sorry, it's Monday the 8th of December. So yeah, that's a possibility where us can get his payout. We might be listening to this on the way back from Bali, so he's got something to look forward to when he gets back.
Well, it just proves that people from Manchester can afford some decent stuff, eh, Steve?
Oh yeah, true. So United should keep increasing their prices, right?
Yeah, especially after the Carrington new exclusive for next summer. But yeah, I guess we'll talk about that later.
Yeah, we'll touch on it. But yeah, let's get back to Ruben then. So yeah, a year down the line, I think, obviously these last 5 games have very much changed the narrative, the mood around Ruben. I would love to know in an alternative universe what would have happened if we'd have lost that Liverpool game. I think I could have won my bet against us.
Yeah, I think you know what
So
would have happened. Yeah.
that shows, how close it was. Even the Athletic article that came out today about 1 year down the line with Ruben, they were talking about, some of the meetings that took place with the Ineos hierarchy, Ergi, etc. So there was, there was talk, there was meetings happening. So I do think it was a close one. But yeah, I lost it. So yeah, how do you assess, I guess, the mood or the current performance of Ruben? Like, do you think he's safe for the season now? Yeah, what are you making of that side of it?
Yeah, I think if you look at it, especially at the beginning of the season, a lot of people, probably including myself, you look at the fixture list and you could have easily thought we would be 15th again after 10 games. So the fact that we're in the mix of European football, so not necessarily Champions League football, given again, I don't like to benchmark against last season, but you kind of have to. So you have to say loosely that the trajectory is upwards in terms of league position. I'm with you in terms of the football and performances, though, because in terms of the way Ruben played football at Sporting Lisbon, and look, every club, every football league that you play in, you're going to have to adapt and stuff like that. So maybe that's where you give Ruben a bit more credit over the last couple of months, because if he had stuck to the way he wanted to play, especially last season, we could be towards the bottom of the league again. But he's learned, obviously, to go longer, not play too many passes at the back, like we were doing a lot last season, and even a little bit at the start of this season. The Arsenal game, for example, everyone loves talking about that game in terms of we did dominate the ball, and that's probably the blueprint of what Ruben wants to do, but obviously, stick the ball in the back of the net. Whereas I think in the last 5 games, he's been more pragmatic. That's kept him in a job. And also the results have improved. I don't know if you know this stat, but when we have less than 50% possession in a game, we're averaging, I think, 1.79 points. And when we're over 50%, we average 0.7. So that tells you a story. So you have to give Ruben credit for understanding it's actually this team that I've got, a lot of these players, they can't do what I want. So therefore I have to change. And obviously he's spent 200 million, right? And Mbumu has definitely made a massive improvement. What about yourself, Steve?
Yeah, I agree. I think you can't really knock the turn of results. The results no one can argue with. Yeah, performances you could maybe question a bit, but I guess if a team is struggling, and when we were struggling, we said, I remember Scott saying, he's just got to get results now. He's got to do what it takes. And yes,
exactly. Yeah.
He's changed his approach a little bit, and fair play to him. So you can't knock that. And like you said earlier, there's signs of improvement. I mentioned the team spirit. So yeah, the trend is up, but obviously we were starting from a very low base. So no one.
And it's
really
still quite
that.
marginal. There's chances in all of these games that the 5-game run, I think you touched on it with the Liverpool one on our last pod, I think, where you mentioned 2 passes and Liverpool were in, and I think Gakpo hit the post. So there are those moments pretty much in every game. And yeah, it's just a case of seeing the trend. I'll be honest with you, gun to the head, if you say to me, do I think this system's going to work out? I don't. It's 2 reasons. One, I don't think we got the personnel at wing back to make this system work brilliantly. That's not even talking about central midfield. But also, I just still don't feel it's Manchester United at the core. Wingers.
Yeah. No, yeah. I kind of agree with that, as in, I don't know if this works long term. In the short term, I do think we'll be in the mix for Europe this season. We'll be in and around it, in which case he's not going to get fired during the season, because that is the requirement. I think, we've said like get into Europe of some form. I'm sure that's what the club is saying. Obviously, they'd love Champions League football, even if it's through the 5th place that we expect to get. So yeah, I think he's safe. It'll be interesting. Obviously, even though we've doubted him, we still want him to succeed, right? There's no question about that.
Well, I'll give you like a little insight into yesterday, like after the show at Talk of the Devils, like was chatting to Laurie about it, and that's one of the things I said in front of a massive group. It's like, even though I've been critical of him, I want him to succeed, right? He's literally my age. Like, there's 2 weeks apart in terms of like, so I want him to succeed, but last season he made it really hard to believe in him, because not just the league, we lost to Spurs, right, in that final. And that was actually talked about a lot. Like, a lot of people, like fans, the Talk of the Devil boys, they're not over it. Like,
Yeah.
and that one hurt. So there's a lot of damage that needs to be repaired, for Ruben to get like that credibility back, not just in terms of like, the embarrassment of last season, but also to be like next season, or like even this season, like win a trophy and get Champions League.
Yeah.
That really elevates everything to be like, oh, you know what? I'm really positive going into next season already.
Yeah. It's we've always said it, right? It's the old cliche in football. It's a results business, and the results last season were just atrocious, the worst we've ever seen. I think I was even looking in the Athletic article today, and when you look at his record across the 1 year, I think we're like 13th or 14th in the Premier League.
14th with like 45 points from 38 games. I know, obviously, some of us on this pod believe you need to separate that out, but the numbers don't lie, do they? In terms of like collectively, if you look at it.
Yeah. But then again, like, I think there's other little things, like, again, I read in that article, which, I quite like this, like little things like he's making the players like sign autographs, like pre-match, like that's a rule where the players can't be so arrogant just to walk past like kids that have been waiting there for hours. So these little like cultural things that he's obviously doing, I quite like that type of stuff, but it's never going to cover up the results on the pitch, right?
This is what I mean. Like, he is way more charismatic, way more likable than Eric Ten Hag. But if you don't win football matches, especially at Manchester United, you haven't got a hope in hell. Especially in this world, right? Like social media world, and everything that goes with it. So you might have been able to get away with it in the 80s and the early 90s. Like, everyone talks about how Ferguson struggled in the early years, but the pressure was different. There wasn't like 5 or 4 spots in the Champions League. Like, it was almost like, you win the old First Division and you're in the European Cup, but in between that, there was only a couple of other spots in Europe. It's not like that anymore. And if we want to benchmark ourselves, we call ourselves the greatest club in the world. We're a million miles away at the moment, because the likes of Real Madrid and Barcelona, might be farmers' leagues, but they're the ones who are in the European Cup or the Champions League. And they're the ones still winning trophies. Barcelona have got no money, and they continue to win.
Yeah, so just going back to what you mentioned about, like, you don't see this formation working like long term, because United has always been about wingers, never really succeeded with 3/5 at the back. So again, another interesting thing I read today, and I think we kind of knew this, is like how involved Jason Wilcox is with the actual like formation of the team. Like, he stands on the touchline at training, and I did read that like he's very into the 4-3-3 that Man City played. And the way I read that article is that Jason Wilcox is trying to like, make this the longer term formation. And, Ruben's talked in recent weeks about adjusting the formation. So I don't know if that's a possibility, but I know people argue that in different phases of play, it's not 5 at the back, etc. But yeah, what do you make of the possibility of Ruben, playing 4-3-3, for example? And if it has come from Wilcox, what do you make of that?
Just to clarify, are you talking about the Jason Wilcox who can't stop talking now?
Yeah, so he's done a podcast. He's done that sit-down interview. He's done a little Manchester United official release. So yeah, since the upturn in results, he's everywhere.
Yeah, look, I mean, let's be honest. Any football club or even corporation, right? They're only going to talk when it's positive.
Or put it this way: it's easier to get hold of Jason Wilcox than Kabir at the moment.
Yeah, exactly, right. So we'll have to like widen that search party out, right, to try and find him. Maybe we can get him for next week, or we could just remember him for the person he was. But yeah, Jason Wilcox and 433. So I've actually wanted to talk about this for probably a few pods, but I keep forgetting to bring it
Probably
up because
get down a rabbit hole arguing about ticket prices.
Exactly, arguing about something, right? So whilst there's two of us and it's in my mind, I'll say it before I forget. You never know; it might even get clipped up. But in terms of 4-3-3 or a wing-back system, when it comes to Ruben, I want him to play the system that he's comfortable with. But the big thing is, and it's touched upon in Laurie's article, you've got to make it work. You've got to make it work. Like Oliver Glasner's done, even before the previous Wolves manager got fired last season. He came in during the season and was able to make a bigger impact. That's the biggest issue I actually got, and that's why I was quite heavy with my criticism of Ruben last season. Is that, look, it's not for me. I don't like a back three because it's an extra defender on the pitch, and I don't like the wing back system unless you've got specialists who can play there. But if you're going to do it, then do it well. So obviously, the last time that it was done to the top level, Antonio Conte, and I think we're talking 2017. So that's like nearly 8 years ago now. So for me, I actually don't want Ruben to change his system. I want him to coach the system that he loves better because it's just not good enough. Even with the 5 undefeated, it's still not good enough. And you can talk about player quality, but again, there's an element of coaching. And if we're going to talk about Wilcox, I've listened to the Manchester United one that he did. So that was a podcast. So he talked about this summer they had a plan in terms of the transfer window. They pretty much started, obviously, planning end of summer 24. So he talked about how the panic of just coming in the door last summer, and it was all a bit rushed. And for 25 summer just gone, it was all they were, in his words, or paraphrasing, in control. But I don't understand how that's the case when you don't bring in a single central midfielder. So you can tell me all you want about we needed to sell X players to get the money in, but I'm sorry, if your transfer plan didn't include one single central midfielder, I've got to question that and be skeptical. But yeah, in answer to your question, it's like play free at the back, Ruben, but you got to do a much better job. Because I don't want him to play 4-3-3 if he doesn't know how to coach it. And to be honest with you, he doesn't, because he tried it at Sporting, and his formation was the back three. He had the players. The league was good enough for him to obviously experiment and do all this. And like you say, always, right, it's results. So he's got to marry the two up between coaching as best as possible this formation. Yeah, I mean, what's your take? You read the article as well in The Athletic. There's a lot of good detail in there. What's your thoughts, Steve?
Yeah, I agree with you. Ruben's come in as, someone with a philosophy that plays 5 at the back. So I agree. If he's really going to succeed, he needs to succeed playing his own philosophy. And if he's getting pressured or encouraged to play some other formation, you know me, I start questioning everything at the club. And you know what I'm going to get onto eventually. I love org charts, right? And how companies are set up. But I think what I actually want to just touch on as well is actually how much responsibility Jason Wilcox has at the club right now. So I'll just read a quote
Got a
from
quote
that
for me.
from that podcast. So I found it quite interesting. So the departments that come underneath the academy would come under Wilcox, and they just appointed Stephen
Foreplay?
Yeah, is it from Brentford?
Brentford, yeah.
Yeah, and he mentions that, he'll be a great appointment. The women's team comes under Wilcox, which is interesting, but he does say that in the interim, the women's team are reporting into Colette Roche, who's I believe, the chief operations officer at the club.
Yeah.
I
And
mean,
they're trying to hire someone, basically.
So it sounds interim in terms of the women's responsibility.
It sounds like Ineos firmly pushed the women's football to the side for the time being.
Yeah, but I think Wilcox says he would support Mark. Mark's the women's team manager, right, from a technical perspective. So it sounds, a bit of an interim thing there. And then he's got recruitment with Christopher Vivell. He's got operations, travel, logistics, kit, all of that. He's got medicine, performance areas, and all of that comes under Jason Wilcox, who was at Man City. He kind of worked with the youngsters, right? He worked with the academy.
Yeah, mainly academy, yeah.
Yeah, so that was his role. He then obviously got a bit of a promotion at Southampton, and he did take up director of football at Southampton, but was it a year or so he was at Southampton?
Yeah, I don't think it was even a year before he was hired by Omar Barada.
Yeah, so he's done that for a year, and then he comes into the biggest club in the country. I know we're not performing like the best club, but we are still, in terms of size, we are the biggest club. And how can he be qualified to oversee all those departments? I just don't get it.
I have a better question, Steve. There was someone who was more qualified given that job description.
Yeah.
But what happened to him?
Yeah, Ineos, bottled it, or they realised that he does actually care about people, and that's not the Ineos style. And this is obviously Dan Ashworth we're talking about. Dan Ashworth is qualified, right? He has done multiple roles within football. He's worked with the FA. He's very much that more higher level, overarching personnel that I'd want in a role like that. Like, I'm not saying Wilcox can't be a good employee in a certain role, but for me, that looks like he's overwhelmed, out of his depth, and yeah, like I said, it makes me question everything about the club.
Yeah, when I listened to that interview and he said that what he's in charge of, it's the first thing I thought of. I'm like, hang on, this is Dan Ashworth's role. The issue is, and I don't think Laurie will mind me kind of like mentioning this. Obviously, from a personality perspective, it was just never the right fit between Ineos, in particular, Jim Ratcliffe, and Dan Ashworth. I actually used the term, for me, Dan Ashworth is more of a Gareth Southgate personality, very calm, organised, methodical, and Laurie agreed with me in terms of like, that's Dan Ashworth's profile. And obviously they massively got it wrong in terms of his appointment. Like, I don't know during the interview process how Ineos, between the lot of them, so whether it was Sir Jim or Omar, how none of them just thought, you know what, this guy is too straight jacket for us, right?
Yeah.
And to be fair, Jason Wilcox, to me, actually seems similar, but he probably just listens to Ineos a bit more. And obviously he's in with Omar Barada and even the new academy director. So yeah, I mean, I think, and the biggest quote which got me worried about Wilcox was actually, I think it was in a fans forum that was doing the rounds on YouTube a few weeks ago. And look, it might be a pinch of salt in terms of what he said, but when he said, I didn't realise the scale of Manchester United, that worried me, I have to say. Because I'm not saying like, oh, everyone should be aware of like United in terms of like how big it is, but like, come on, like, you've been in football for 30 plus years. He took on United, right, with Blackburn, and then he's been competing with United in youth football for the last 10 plus years at City. I think it was mentioned either yesterday or on a pod, like, United's budget for youth football was bigger than City's. So for him to say that, I was a bit like, do you understand the club then? All right.
Yeah.
And then I think I touched upon it on the last pod as well. Like, I'm interested to see what we're going to be doing with the academy going forward. Like, are we just going to become another City or Chelsea in terms of conveyor belt where we just sell these guys like commodities? And look, I get it, the PSR element and all of the rest of it, but I want Kobe Mainoo's to come through, right? I want the Golden Nuggets to come through the academy and get into the team still.
Yeah.
Yeah, the jury's out for me on Jason Wilcox. Like, proof is in the pudding. Actions speak louder than words. So we'll have to keep an eye on it. I mean, what's your thoughts on the clips that you've seen or the interviews that you've watched? Like, is there anything you wanted to point out?
Yeah, well, like I said, I mentioned my concern there, and it makes me think back to I think it was 2021 or 2022 when clearly I had too much time on my hands and I decided to do a PowerPoint deck on how to save United. And we were looking at the org charts back then, and let's actually bring it up on the screen and take a little look at this piece of work. Right. So this, again, shout out to The Athletic, because we'll give them a credit on this org chart. This is the last one I've seen at the club. Yeah, like I said, this is back in 2021, 22 time, as you can tell by some of the names on here, right? And yeah, of course, the interim manager at this point, which brings back some bad memories. We have our old friend John Murter as football director, and we have Mr. Darren Fletcher slotted in.
I love the Darren Fletcher line. I love that.
Slotted in there, just the second most senior position in the biggest football club in England for Mr. Darren Fletcher, who of course
but
we love.
Slightly pushed on the side into the org chart, but yeah, carry on, Steve.
Yeah. So like, I looked at this at the time and I thought, what a mess for an org chart. Why is the manager of the club reporting into the CEO? Surely the manager should be reporting into the director of football, right? So I looked at this, I thought, what is this? And like I said, clearly had too much time on my hands back then. And we put together a recommended football hierarchy. So again, you can laugh at some of the names here. But essentially the way I saw it was the director of football should oversee pretty much all football operations at the club. So, here I said, for example, Ralph Rangnick, who you've put in charge of manager, would actually be more suited to this director of football role, or Dan Ashworth, right, to oversee the whole football operation. And, back then, obviously, Ten Hag was the first team manager, or he was coming in at that time. So, for me, clearly, the manager should report into the director of football, as this shows. The academy, I even found a role here for Mr. Darren Fletcher, academy pathway director.
I mean, Johnny Evans has got like a loans role, right? So yeah, you're not far off wrong with a job title. So you're good at job titles, Steve, that's for sure.
So like, it's just logic there, right? Surely, like I said, the manager reporting into the CEO was just mental. So I think the club, to be fair, they've either stolen our work or, seen the light that it makes sense for the manager to report into the director of football. But yeah, I thought, I even, created roles for the likes of John Murter, like I said, Darren Fletcher, within a new structure. And importantly, again, recruitment should obviously feed into the director of football as well. And within recruitment, you've got the data side and you've got the scouting side working together. So for me, this is the type of structure you need to succeed and have that alignment across the club. And yeah, for me, like I said, Dan Ashworth would have been the perfect man to do that role. And I think you mentioned a couple of traits there, being calm, measured. I think these are the types of traits you want at a big club like us going through this change. I don't think that's a bad thing. I know it clashed with Ineos, but I think those are characteristics you would like, if anything. So yeah, that is kind of what I foresee. And I feel like obviously Wilcox now, he is in this director of football position and, he's got other departments on top of this reporting into him. But for me...
Yeah, he's got to wash the kits.
Yeah, exactly. He should be kind of maybe in that John Murter role, for example. I feel like he's out of his depth.
I gotta say, like I said, when he said all of his responsibilities, a Dan Ashworth at the top of this in terms of the director of football, he would have been good to be the overarching. And to your point, Jason Wilcox definitely has a role, probably more in the John Murta side, maybe, Neil Cox side, actually, because that's obviously what he did at City. But yeah, Sir Jim Ratcliffe, it's as simple as that. It's not, you don't even need to say Ineos. It's Sir Jim Ratcliffe. And this is kind of like the worry going forward. It's like, how long will it be before he's fired? Because we know what Ratcliffe's like. If something is not progressing fast enough as well, they're gone, irrelevant of loyalty.
Something very interesting that came up is the chat that you mentioned where Wilcox was doing that kind of dinner sit down speak. He mentioned, I hope we get the time to deliver.
Exactly.
Yeah, I thought that was telling.
Same.
Yeah. He can feel Jim breathing down his neck, right? So yeah, I mean, we'll stop talking about org charts now because there's other stuff we can
That's
talk
the business
about.
part done. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, touching on Ineos, we've seen a few things over the last few weeks, right? They're coming up with creative ways to generate extra revenue. So the first one was a couple of weeks ago where you can now order souvenir tickets for matches you've been to or you haven't been to, in fact. But as an idea, I don't think it's terrible. For example, I did click the little tick box for souvenir tickets for Oasis because it's all digital tickets now, right? And people do like collecting souvenir tickets. I don't think it's a terrible idea, but the fact that you can just go onto the website and order however many tickets for any game you've not been to is just a joke, surely.
Yeah, it's cheating, isn't it? To an extent. Look, this will pay for the big wages of Adam Wharton and Elliot Anderson next summer, right, Steve?
Well, that plus the new £100 ticket to go to see Carrington on a tour experience as
I
well.
thought you were going to say that fund the new Trafford.
Oh
but yes,
God,
Carrington. Yeah, we'll put the stadium aside. Talk to me about Carrington. You going next summer with Rafi?
No, I don't think so. Because the other thing is it's only during the summer. So if you're going to pay £100 to go Carrington, you surely want to see the first team training, right? I know people will do it because obviously it's United. Again, it just feels a bit desperate to me. I get it, revenue generation, ESR,
But it takes a lot of the ex-players have talked about Carrington. Carrington is an island away from everyone. And even if they were charging £50, it's like, why are you giving that access? Because that's a sacred place in terms of the dressing room and all that stuff. And this is the thing, like you said, look, I'm sure there's a bundle of European clubs that probably do this. I can't remember off the top of my head, but obviously I've done the Real Madrid stadium tour or the Barca one and Bayern, but I don't remember training ground. And yeah, it just seems a bit desperate. I agree.
Just stinks of Ineos. I can imagine them
stinks of Ineos. Yeah,
just sitting in a meeting. Someone's come up with this idea. They think they're really clever. It will generate a bit of extra revenue, but they just don't get it. And I think this then leads me on to I've always said my goal is to get back to number one of England, let alone Europe. And for me, we talked about whether it's going to happen under Ruben. I've always said for me the problem's way wider than Ruben. Obviously, Kieran broke my heart on the last pod when he said he doesn't think the Glazers are even close to considering selling up. But yeah, I just think this whole situation at the club, it's temporary. This whole Ineos times Glazer is temporary. So yeah, I think we need an even bigger shake-up. I think we need new owners, but I accept that could take years. So in the meantime, you just got to try and win as many football matches as you can, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think the problem that I'm seeing on the pitch is that I'm not really sure how much improvement I'm going to see throughout the season without a jump up in quality of player. And obviously, the only way you can do that is if you upgrade in January in particular, and I don't think we will. And then again, we're looking at next summer in terms of we're definitely after a central midfielder. Like that is like the number one target. And it's just going to be a case of is it one or is it two? But the price is being floated about already. I mean, Christ, if Elliot Anderson costs 100 million.
I feel like there's a midfielder that plays well, and then as soon as he's linked with United, it's like 100 million. It's not 70, 80, it's just bang 100.
Can you imagine if Kobbie Mainoo played for Brighton? We'd be linked with him right now for 100 fucking million.
150.
Ridiculous. The guy can't see a minute on the pitch. It's insane.
Yeah, and that's the other thing that again breaks my heart to a certain extent. Just like the academy, what's happened with that, and like we let's be honest, we should have lost the record of having an academy player in the squad. We only had Fletcher in, right, which is ironically Darren Fletcher's son. So clearly,
Jack.
He's getting good commission, Darren, from the club. But we only put him in the squad just to keep the record, right? I think that's pretty clear. Like that record would have gone on the weekend.
I have this terrible feeling. I know. Well, sorry, the lads again. They spoke about it. He will do his best to carry this record on, but I have a horrible feeling some point this season it will go.
Technically, it's gone already because they only kept it going on the weekend by cheating. Really, just put him in the squad to keep it.
Ironically, this is a stat that no one knew about under Ferguson, and I think it was only
The Athletic probably that like broke the stat.
Yeah, and I think they only broke it a few years ago. So not even maybe even after Van Gaal. So like maybe even after Mourinho. So it's quite a new stat in terms of like people knowing about it. But once you know it, you do want it to carry on because it is an incredible record. But yeah, this is the thing. For me, it's like the way he's isolating. Look, he's not picking on players because like they're in the academy, but like, look, Kobbie Mainoo should be playing more minutes for this particular Manchester United team as well, right? Like, it's not littered with midfield options and players being incredible, and therefore you can't drop him. Appreciate there's not enough games, but he's got to get more minutes on the pitch. And look, we're going back to the same old thing. I blame the system to an extent, right? Because it means there's an extra defender on the pitch when I can't have Kobbie Mainoo on the pitch.
Yeah, I get that. But also, let's not forget, we let a academy graduate who is now, was in the Ballon d'Or nominees, right? So Scott McTominay left the club. Obviously, Rashford, Garnacho left the club. You could argue that's for different reasons. But, this kind of like approach goes back further than Ruben for me. So again, that's why I feel like my connection to the club, this season is just dwindling because that was always a massive thing at United. And yeah, the Kobbie thing, obviously, I've been banging on about all season.
But Steve, like, to be fair, like we both play football and we still play regularly now. If you're a wide forward, right, or winger, as I like to call it still, if you're in a system where you can only basically play as a wing back, which means a hell of a lot more running, or in these like in between pocket players, which essentially Mbeumo and Cunha are playing, there's no space for like a Rashford to play in this system and thrive. And the same with Garnacho. Them guys are wide forwards. Do you remember on the first ever pod, I think we talked about winners and losers because of Ruben coming in. And I don't know if it was my main point, but I said Rashford will not be a winner out of this. Even from a system point of view, like I kind of explained the reasons about like off field, but
yeah,
it's things like that kind of just grate me a little bit. Like look, Garnacho is going to be on and off, right, with Chelsea because, they got such a big squad. But it's annoying to see he's starting to, thrive a bit more. But that's because he's playing the position even Ten Hag played him in. even a bench option.
I do take that point as in like the system we're playing has limited the opportunities for, in particular, Rashford, Garnacho and Mainu. But I'm just making the point, like, Scott, we let go prior to Ruben because it was a club decision. We wanted to cash in on him. We didn't probably realise he is as good as he's been at Napoli. So, the club made that call. But I take your point, the system is affecting that as well.
I think, like, on the point of, like, we wanted to cash in on Scott, I mean, that was under Ineos's management.
That's what I mean.
So I think that is going to be an issue going forward as well, because, I think it's, been reported anyway on The Athletic in terms of articles, so I don't think I'm giving too much away that when Eric Ten Hag was, being shortlisted in terms of his replacement, Thomas Tuchel and Roberto De Zerbi were two managers that they got down to kind of like discussions about, like, okay, if you're going to join, and they talked about salary with De Zerbi, and De Zerbi asked for a ridiculous amount of money. But that was tendered by, I think, Laurie, who mentioned that he thought Ineos were trying to lowball him. So, like, that lowball element of Ineos is going to be apparent, whether it's at the managerial level, academy level, or, transfers. So it's the I screwed up in that my support for Ineos, because, like, they are going to run a tight ship, tight to the very core.
Yeah, well, if we keep winning games, people won't be talking about org charts. They'll be talking about goals, and obviously that's what we prefer talking about. So yeah, if we look ahead to the fixtures coming up after this international break.
Oh God, how are we going to get through the international break, Steve?
Well, we've got the Ashes coming up soon, so that will help.
That will help a lot, and enter the Formula One season as well.
Oh yeah, interesting.
3 races to go. Yeah. So what's the next fixture?
Yeah, so I mean, just looking at the run all the way into January when you have the FA Cup break, the fixtures on paper look pretty decent. And I know we've done this multiple times in the past and it hasn't worked out like that. But Everton at home, Crystal Palace away, West Ham at home, Wolves away, which we might be at.
Christmas party, yeah.
Bournemouth at home, Villa away, Newcastle at home, Wolves at home again. Wow, do we play them twice in the space of a few weeks? Yeah. And then
that's what I mean. Fixtures like Wolves, if you're playing them twice, it's got to be 6 points. It can't be 4. Yeah. This is what I'm saying.
And then even into early Jan, Leeds away. That'll be a big game. 4th of Jan, 12:30 kickoff.
Wow, that's going to be tidy, yeah.
Yeah, and then 7th of Jan, Burnley away. So, like, that run of fixtures is pretty good on paper, right? Yeah, you'd hope to still be in the mix for European places come the end of that run. And then we do have the FA Cup break, and then there's some tougher fixtures like the Manchester derby in mid-Jan, and then Arsenal away. But, there's a lot of fixtures to get to before that. So you'd like to think we can keep this run going to some extent and pick up some points, right? I don't think that guy who's grown his hair has got any hope of cutting his hair this season, to be honest.
Very tough. Like you said, we're a bit harder to beat, which is a good sign. But like this is all stepping stones. A long way to go. And we just have to hope. Like I said, Mbumu is obviously scoring his goals. If you get the likes of Cunha scoring his goals as well, and even Šeško, then you can start to win more games. And it's as simple as that. So we've scored obviously a decent amount of goals. I think it's 19. So I think we've scored the same amount as Liverpool and, the teams in and around there. But this is it. If you're going to score more goals, you're going to have to be better at the back, or a bit like Arsenal. You got to be hard to beat in terms of like to concede a goal. You got to score a really good goal, and I guess that's one of the things we've seen over the last like 2 away games. Like it's the glut of goals as well, right? It's that problem as well. Work in progress. But could be a whole lot worse. I think that's the way to look at it, right?
Yeah, it could be. So we'll see how many points we can pick up. And just talking about hair again, I think the big exclusive from last night is that I share the same barber as Laurie Whitwell, right?
I believe so. A certain venue in a leafy village.
Yeah, so shout out Ted Jacobs in Wilmslow. I knew a few United footballers go there, but I didn't know Mr. Laurie Whitwell with the best barnet in the whole world goes there. It's just my barnet's not as good as Laurie's, but that's nice to know that he uses the same barbers.
I was going to say, I'm going to have to come to old Ted, when I come up north and get the old fade as well.
Yeah, well, I think you were speaking to Laurie for quite a while last night, right? And he paid, was it $100 for his fade in New York? He paid
In Chicago, yeah.
Chicago. Sorry for revealing that, Laurie.
No, I'm sure he'll be fine. I mean, he asked the group, like, guess how much I paid, and I guessed on the money. So yeah, a ton.
$100 for a fade. Wow.
Yeah, so it's probably well recommended to get your fade in the UK before you go out to the US for your holidays or for your travels.
Yeah, nice. And did you say that Laurie had been to Sri Lanka as well?
Yes, he's had a great tour of Sri Lanka. So he done a similar tour to me. So yeah, started obviously in the capital Colombo, done a bit of hill country with Kandy, went to Sigiriya, went to Ella, Nurelia, so that's all the hill country in the middle of the island. And then yeah, he went on safari as well, and he went south. He didn't went to Galle, but yeah, he couldn't remember off the top of his head. But yeah, fair play. He really really enjoyed his trip to Sri Lanka, and yeah, it was just good to obviously talk about, given I've just been there as well. So all that needs to be done is for Mr. Whitwell to come on the pod and share some more thoughts with us.
Yep. We'll love to have him on. And I think you had a bit of time with Ian and Carl as well, right?
Yeah, the boys were all in top form, so spent some time talking to Carl. He's a Walthamstow boy, so it was nice for him to be at the same venue where, as a kid, he watched Space Jam, because that used to be a cinema back in the day. And he kind of spoke to me about his rugby days as well. So Carl knows his sports and certainly knows his stuff for Manchester United. So that was a good conversation. And yeah, Ian's fairly local to you as well, Steve. So he's not far away. So yeah, had a good conversation with him. Like I said, he's done a great job of presenting the podcast, and obviously does really good work with Premier League TV. Obviously, we wouldn't know because we don't ever watch foreign, coverage of the Premier League.
Yep, we never watch 3 p.m. games.
Yeah, we never watch 3 p.m. games, so we just take it on good authority that, Ian does a great job with presenting Premier League TV. But yeah, he was in good form. And yeah, obviously the man himself, Mr. Mitten.
The GOAT.
The GOAT, sharing tales beyond. And he's got some exciting travelling plans, which I'm sure he'll talk about on their upcoming pods on Talk of the Devil. So I'll leave it with Mr. Mitten to fill us in with his visa applications and his itinerary over the coming months.
And obviously Mitten owes us one, right? Because I did write an article for United We Stand a few years ago talking about tickets.
Did. And I saw him at Brentford, and I brought that up with him. I did say, Steve's waiting for the callback. So yeah, fingers crossed, Andy, if you're listening, the seat's ready for you, my friend.
To be fair to Andy, he came back to me. We know how busy he is. He travels, he covers games all around Europe. So, he was kind enough to respond. We will get him on eventually. It's just a matter of time. So, yeah, we'd love to have them all on eventually. So, yeah, unless you've got any AOB, I think we can wrap it up there.
No, look forward to the next game now. We have the international break. We'll rest and recuperate. We'll let Thomas Tuchel do his thing. He's come up with a quote apparently today saying that Bellingham, Foden and Kane can't all start. So that's going to cause controversy for all the papers. So, we'll see what England do. And then back to the main stuff.
Cool. And at what point do we actually call the police and report the missing person in Kabir?
I think they say once you've lost 10, then yeah, you can call the police. Great stat. Arne Slot has lost more games this year than Ruben Amorim.
I think that's the perfect place to wrap up. So thanks for joining us on this episode, and we'll catch you on the next one.